Hello everyone, welcome to Weekly Manga Recap. It is Wednesday, April the 17th of 2024. I am Nick here with Quinn, and we are talking manga today and next week and the week after, but you know.
Well, the week after will be Golden Week, so it'll be like manga adjacent.
Manga adjacent is what we will be discussing then. Mm-hmm. But then we'll keep on doing manga after that. We won't branch out further, but we'll come back to the center again.
And then after that will be the Friday the 13th movie where Jason is a weeaboo, and that one will be manga adjacent.
Wow.
Uh-huh.
I'm trying to imagine that in my head, and it's kind of just like disturbing on all fronts.
Jason, there's like a girl and she's hiding in a locker. She just had sex, which Jason can't allow, and he stabs her through the locker with the machete and goes, "Dantabayo!"
Not only the fact that Jason talks in this iteration, but that it is in manga-related memes and catchphrases and opinion giving, just ruined on all fronts.
Yeah, there's gonna be someone hiding under a bed, and they're gonna see his feet, and they're gonna be, it's a real tense scene. It's all quiet, hands over the mouths. And then they see the footsteps move away, and they're like, "Oh, we're safe." And then the knife stabs through the bed and kills him. And Jason goes, "All according to Keikaku." And he has like has-been hotel stickers all over his mask.
Stabs the guy in the heart, murders you, uwu.
Glomp.
God.
He kills people with a yaoi paddle.
Actually, that sounds like something Jason would do.
Yes. Oh yeah, if there was a version of Friday the 13th where Jason goes to an anime con, he absolutely kills somebody with a yaoi paddle.
See, that's not nearly as horrifying. Like if all of the otaku-ness is surrounding Jason, that's still fine. If it's internalized within his character and his soul, then it's like, what are we doing here?
Anything is a weapon to Jason. He doesn't care about its prestige or notoriety or anything like that. But Jason himself arguing subs v dubs, never.
But it would be kind of funny if to just have, like every argument end with him just killing a guy. Like 2 sentences in, he's like, "Oh, One Piece is better than Naruto." No, it's not.
Now, this is an important question. In that subs v dubs debate, it's him and Freddy Krueger. Which one does each one stand on the side of?
I feel like Jason would be subs and Freddy would be dub.
It makes sense.
Freddy's much more loose with a lot of stuff. He likes his swearing, and he likes pop culture references and stuff. And so he thinks that stuff should be adapted to the situation. And Jason's definitely a traditionalist. He listens to, what am I listening? He watches anime the way his mom taught him to.
Yeah. Plus, canonically,
tape.
One of these characters has killed somebody by turning himself into a television, grabbing their head and slamming it through the television. And if the television were to utter something ironic before going in, like "time to blast off" or something like that, it needs to be dubbed so that the person hearing it can understand the maximum irony before they are killed.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm glad we figured this out. Same time next week, Nick.
This is the quality content that WMR listeners have come to expect from us.
Yes.
All right. Let's get into the week's manga, everybody. We've got a new series to discuss. We've got a series to say goodbye to. And we've got some big chapters. We're going to start with My Hero Academia chapter 420, baby.
That's
from Aizawa.
That's coming up real soon. Do you have 420 plans, Nick?
No, I never have 420 plans. I'm a very boring person. Also, very weird that for whatever reason, I'm just noticing this. The chapter title, it's followed up with the author credit, and it just says by Kohei. Doesn't say Kohei Horikoshi here.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if that's an error or if Horikoshi's like, I'm just gonna go by a mononym now. And, yeah. So.
He's like, no one can be angry at Horikoshi if I'm not Horikoshi anymore.
Horikoshi Sensei, what about character number 758 that you completely forgot about and wasted the potential of? Wait, where is he? Where's Horikoshi Sensei? I don't know. I'm just Kohei. I have no idea where he is. Take your nerd questions away from here. Jason Voorhees.
Oh, wow. Full circle.
Damn it, how can I murder Horikoshi for fucking up my favorite series if he's not here?
Jason, like, is machete now dragging against the ground. He's like, okay.
Do, 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 do.
Cha, 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 cha.
This is a sad version of the Jason. Jason. All right. I haven't even talked about a single thing that happens in the chapter yet. So we get, an explanation for, how Aizawa came through a portal, a very obviously Kurogiri portal, in the last chapter, which is that after everyone was all bamfed away, all the heroes were separated as part of All for One's divide and conquer plot. Present Mike and Aizawa were confronting Kurogiri, and Present Mike was just, beating him up. And it's like, come on, work! Use your teleport to get us off this island in the middle of nowhere, basically.
Yeah.
Because they got no comms, they can't make their way back there. And he's just, completely. Mike's just lost all hope, essentially, at this point. He's like, come on, we're basically relying on a corpse for help at this point. But Aizawa stops him, and he says, oh, I see tears. And Mike, who's been tearing up over this, is like, I'm not crying. It's no, not you. So essentially, he's like, there's something going on here. Mike doesn't want to believe it because, they're in the middle of rain and everything like that. But, and he says, like, come on, this is it. As far as spoils of war go, we drew a darkened dud. There's not going to be a miracle that happens here. We're 31 years old now. Oh, what old men. We're not schoolboys in UA's Class 2A anymore. But Aizawa says that might be true, but he was a UA student when he died. So, essentially, there is still that hopeful young kid within Kurogiri as well.
Yes.
So, and he grips Kurogiri's head between his hands, and he just points out, like, why wouldn't he have just, torn us apart with his warp gates or dropped us to our deaths? That day in Tartarus, we reached toward him, we drew out a little bit of light, and it blended with his darkness and shut him down. No amount of light can ever reverse all that dark. I know you know this, Yamada. We're educators in the Hero Course, and it's our job to make sure UA students reach graduation. And if that's where his origin lies, those memories ain't ever gonna fade. And he breaks through, and some of Shirakumo seems to listen to this, and as all three of them recall, their days as UA students, his body whips out into a massive portal for them. And Tsukoshi is here. That's okay. Moving on. He's boring. So
now, Nick, this is the moment everyone's been waiting for. They're like, when is Tsukauji gonna come into the fight?
Yeah, absolutely. They get a contact at this moment from Aizawa, who asks if Monoma can fight, and he's like, no, he took a really bad blow to the head. So Aizawa says, okay, then give me an update on each theater of battle, and give me some coordinates and all available personnel. And he's like, why do you need coordinates? But Aizawa, shortly afterward, bamps in to the underground shelter, the UA underground shelter, where Ectoplasma is standing guard with some of their heroes. And he quickly says, like, we've got Kurogiri to help us out, so you got to gather up all the heroes assigned to this evacuation and protection mission, leave behind only the ones best suited for defense. We've got to go. We got to get moving. And Do you recognize this character, Quinn? The big guy with the big chin who
Is
shows
that
up.
the guy who used to use like construction material, the drill dozer or some shit like that?
No, this is the guy who quit being a hero with the massive arms.
Oh, okay. Is the next one just a Barrage cameo, or is this a character from the series?
I think that's a Barrage.
Okay. I was looking at it, I was like, that looks like the main character from Barrage. Was
It
there
does, yes.
already a character like that in this series?
And so he jumps in and is like, I'm still a hero, let me fight too. As I was like, okay, yeah, come to the main entrance. And that one kid who really didn't want to let Deku into the school, he's like, can you give this to a hero who's hurt? And he takes his shirt off, I guess, presumably to use this as a tourniquet.
Yeah.
It would feel really awkward if someone next to them were like, we have actual bandages, sir.
I mean, it's one of those things. They weren't like, supplies are in such low demand. Who knows if we could even get the medical attention? This guy was
take
just,
my clothes.
Yeah. Hey guys, take my shirt. They're like, you just wanted to pop the shirt off, didn't you? And he's like, wow, I have been working on my my arms.
I wanted to show off how I don't have nipples.
Yeah.
So they reach out. They're like, we got to reach out to everyone who's got any, who's able to still fight. And there is a very weird moment where it's like, let's check in on one of these other little battles. There's an escaped prisoner there, notorious for wide-range devastation and battles of attrition. Gashly Eijiju. Yeah, he's a weird silhouette guy with a fanciful umbrella.
Yeah.
And a book.
I mean, this has to be a thing, right? Like, I feel like I've seen things that look like this in Japanese media before.
And immediately, like, Aizawa drops some, like, Class 1B students and a few other people in on them to disrupt the battle. And then Aizawa's like, okay, and now for Divine Conquer Phase 3. So he kind of, like, used Kurogira's ability to redistribute powers and then even brought people back from the battles that he assisted with, it seems, because we see, like, Sato is one of the people who was stuck in this battle with them,
Sure.
with Eijiju. So then he comes back, and there's a whole bunch of portals that are all opening up in front of All for One. Aizawa's like, hey, how long has it been since you lost your arms to Deku? But Deku's like, I'm not really sure, which makes sense because they were, in the mind realm when it happened, so he's not really aware when his physical body got disintegrated like this. So,
yes,
Aizawa thinks to himself, at UA on that floating tomb, All for One was boasting about overcoming the resistant Shigaraki and achieving a perfect fusion. When it was Shigaraki's turn, it didn't work out. All for One was swallowed up. He was gone. Or this is actually Deku talking, I think. And he's like, I thought that smashing through his spirit would break both of them, so how is all for One back in action? He's like, well, I mean, that is the question to be asked, I guess, but punch him and find out what happens, I think, at this point. Aizawa looks down at Deku, who is clearly not thinking about his arms at all because of these thoughts, and he holds out little horn. And we flash back to Eri going to Aizawa when he came asking for help and said she says, the teachers don't want me to take me to the teachers don't want to take me to the scary battle, and I know why I can't go, but please give this to Deku. And she has taken off her horn. As I was like, well, how? Why? And Aries says, well, I asked and I got some help. And apparently ectoplasm was just like, yeah, sorry.
I mean, in a way, the most responsible thing Ectoplasm could have done in that moment, because he's like, look, if I don't do this, this girl's just going to try to find any way she can to go to this battle and do this.
So he helped her to at least safely take it off. Although they point out, like, we don't even know if her horn's going to grow back after this. So maybe this is her sacrificing her quirk entirely for this one effort. But she explains herself saying, like, hey, you and the teachers helped me learn about my power, and you need to use this because it's a piece of me. And as I was like, hey, you might damage your quirk. But Eri says, I want to help All Might and Ka-chan like this, but I couldn't. And I want to sing. Because, Quinn, who is the true hero of My Hero Academia? It's Jiro, the one who inspires hope, and the little girl with the miracle power.
I mean, arguably, you could sit here and say who's more important to the story, Bakugo or Jiro? And the answer right now in this exact panel is Jiro.
I seem to recall Bakugo thinking he defeated All for One.
Yeah.
Well,
little did you know.
A full victory if I've ever seen one. So Eri just begs Aizawa and says, "Look, Deku and all his friends did all that fun stuff with me, and once this bad day is all over, I want to sing for them." Aww.
That's very cute.
Little girl wants to help out her big sibling friends, and in the present, Aizawa touches her horn to Deku's shoulder, and he basically thinks while doing it is like, "Yeah, look, there's not a lot of energy in the horn. Any target will be rewound slowly and not by a great amount of time, but it might give someone back 2 or 3 minutes." And as this is said, Deku's arms regenerate and start to come back. And Aizawa just says, "You can't die until you've heard her sing," which is so cute.
Yeah.
And emerging from the portal behind him is just... It looks like everybody, for one thing, because there's a whole bunch of portals.
Yes.
And Aizawa says, "We were all feeling the same way, I bet. Like, we were down for the count."
Gang Orca's in one of them.
Gang Orca is in one of them. And lots of people, like some that I can't even remember the names of. And coming from the portal directly behind Deku is Kaminari, who is looking really dumb right now. Koda and Shoji, both in there, like, we both leveled up and gotten super grim looking and serious. Yaoyorozu and Mineta, what happened to you? What's with your teeth? What's wrong with you?
He lost an eye. It's one less eye for him to be a pervert with.
Yeah.
So I like this.
But he's got more teeth to be a pervert with, it seems.
I like this because this is straight up the portal scene from Avengers, fucking on your left. And like that kind of led with like Falcon and then Black Panther. Imagine like it just led with Mineta and you're like, no, there should have been fucking Gang Orca. That should have come out of the portal first or something like that. This is not the stand up and applaud moment.
Just Black Panther and all the people of Wakanda just randomly there in the My Hero Academia universe.
That actually would be pretty fucking funny. I don't know. At first, I thought this was going to be like super cool because I thought it was just everyone from Class 1A, and it was just going to be like, hey, Class 1A is going to team up to whoop your ass. The idea that there's just going to be like a shit ton of heroes could also just be something. But like, I don't know what they'll do, but hopefully it'll be fucking cool. So that's what I'm looking forward to right now.
I do have an appreciation that it's not just all of Class 1A, because that would involve, like Shoto and Bakugo.
Yes. I was in my mind taking those out, like the ones who had their own giant individual fight.
And I do like the idea of like, hey, it's the fucking extras that are going to be the ones that are the deciding factor in taking down All for One. So we'll see how this goes. I kind of get the feeling now that like no one's gonna die, which I'm kind of totally okay with. Like, but I mean, we'll see if that holds true or not. Yeah, it is definitely, absolutely the end of Infinity War. I wonder if this means that someone who's Iron Man is going to show up and give Deku a hug or something. But
I think it's very funny. Because we grew up at like a point where everything was influenced by Star Wars. So you'd see like a billion things reference Star Wars. Like this Endgame moment happened, like 2-3 years ago, I guess longer than that. It was like pre-pandemic, wasn't it? So,
it was pre-pandemic.
So like, oh God. So like 5 years ago. But I think it's very funny that this has already aped it, and the end of the big Magic the Gathering last like huge thing was also, here are a bunch of portals and characters coming out of them to help, kind of like also just aping that scene completely. So I think we'll just be seeing the portal scene get aped in fiction for a while to come.
It does seem that way. It is kind of funny to see stories that 100% were begun well before the portal scene happened, decided to ape the portal scene.
Yes. And to be very clear, this is not a complaint. This is not me saying, like, get an original idea. I love the portal scene. Sure, do an homage to it. It's awesome. It's very funny to see it happening in real time after experiencing, like, the back end of the Star Wars effect.
So get hyped. The final battle is coming. And here we go. That's Undead Unluck it.
Yeah, let's talk about Undead Unluck. This is number 203, Sound Mind, Strong Body, and we get some popularity poll results on the cover. Fuko is at first, which makes sense. She's been the main character of the series. Andy is still there, even though he doesn't do anything, but that's in fifth. Tatiana's in second. Hasn't showed up in the series in about 2 years, outside of one panel. So. Yeah. One of maybe the more surprising one on this, Feng is third.
He's third.
Which is very funny because he has to be the one holding up the ball. That is right. The anime is going on, so I guess it makes sense there. Julia/Juez is fourth, and then Nico is in sixth. I'm sure there's a place where you can see the extended results. We don't get them here, but fun stuff. I'm really tickled by Feng in third place.
Yeah, that seems so random. I do remember seeing some of the extended results, and I mean, it's like, it's kind of like mostly what you would expect in terms of like who follows after this. Although Gina's a lot lower down than I would have suspected. But I don't know. But there's a very large and very good cast in Undead Unluck, so not all of them could be in first place.
I also imagine that Gina would be higher if the anime gets to that point where characters can like, the second loop or whatever. She didn't really have a ton to do the first loop and then died.
No, she died. That was
yeah. Anyway, into the chapter itself. Unfade Feng has been added into the fight. He shows up like unconsciously, like heel kicks the dragon. And everybody, like, Nico's like super impressed. He's like, this was really great. You used that small weird creature to chain the U into the next word. You brought someone who's crazy good. This is great. But language is like, who cares? I have the strongest thing. No negator can stand against this. This dragon is going to obliterate you. Nico's like, Fang, you had to handle this. We'll fill you on the details later. And Fang just pokes Ichiko's little ghost form, kind of showing that he can see her. And then it's like, okay, Shiratori, I get it. Like, he figured out this game very quickly. He'll do this again later where he just kind of intuits the situation very quickly. But he figures out it's Shiratori, walks up, kicks the dragon in the head. The dragon slams it to the ceiling. He takes a moment, looks around, spots one scale that's the weak point, pinballs across the dragon, and then delivers a definitive blow, essentially, to this weak spot of the dragon.
You know how you kill dragons, Quinn?
Yes.
It's by kicking them.
Yes.
It's just by kicking them.
And he says, you possess quite the excellent superpower. As he looks to language and he starts smiling. He's like, I have a feeling this will make for good training. And I like language. Her nose is just bleeding. Like, she didn't get hit, but she just watched this super cool dragon.
Oh, God, he's hot.
Yeah. So Nico and Chico are like, this is great. We're back in business. You should always have a strong, badass fighter on your team. And Fuko gave him the 10th seat, so he's a member of Union. This is it. We got this. And Fang is just like, cool. Glad you summoned me. And they're like, yeah, we thought you'd be like super useful for the team. You know the rules, right? Let's all fight together. And Fang smiles and says, yes. If I continue to string together words, I have an endless supply of foes to fight. Powerful foes. And this is great. We're going to have to talk about Eden Zero in a little bit. And this is a thing that if it happened in Eden Zero, this character would have shown up and instantly solved the problem and there'd be nothing.
Yeah.
But the fact that this character has like a personality and flaws makes it so it's not an instant win. And there's like a wrinkle in the story. And like, It's so small, but I just appreciate these things happening. So
I love the face palms that are happening in the background. Nico doing his with his hand, but Ichigo's also, face palming with her hair because
yeah,
he's been using her hair like that this whole time.
yeah. Everyone's saying that the reason her nose was bleeding is because she did take damage from the attack in the soul way. But
No,
I think it is
no,
funnier if she's just like, oh fuck, and just start
no.
unconsciously bleeding.
Look, the very first thing she does afterwards is like, I'm gonna get hot now. So she is absolutely
that is very true. So she's like, okay, cool. He has an understanding of souls, but he's not a good team player. He is going to try to just use this as a way to get his training in, basically. So, she's like, this was a bad move. Words will not move him. And Fang's already immediately like, yeah, more. So she's like, okay, fine. I'll take the E from Unfade and use that for evolution. And she starts absorbing all of the languages that she has taken from people, and she starts consuming it all. And as she's consuming them, she's like, I'm going to be adding a new rule. From this point on, we're going to do 2 words. So you're going to have to be extra careful when you're choosing your words, because you never know which one will be your last. As you said, yes, she now has like an adult-looking form that some are calling hot, Nick. Some in our Discord are
the very political, the politicians' explanation of events here.
Yeah.
Some are calling this form hot.
Yeah, I'm the newscaster here. I'm like, some have been referring to this form as quote attractive. They are what the kids are calling quote gooning for her.
Some are referring to language phase 3 as quote tower mommy.
Holy shit! All right, the episode's called Tower Mommy. I don't need to think about that one. So yeah, she's like, "Yep, I've added this rule. It'll be your last. It's my turn now. I'm going to add Latin." And she adds Latin, and then adds 2 words together. She adds Soul and Luna, and she creates the versions of Soul and Luna that we have seen in the story. However, interestingly, no one besides her knows what that is. Like, they're like, Soul and Luna, it doesn't look like the sun or moon at all. And Fang's like, must be her image of them. Finding a humanoid makes it easier. And she notes that she's like, yeah, even at my strength, it's, kind of hard to perfectly replicate them. But what we have right now is more than enough to kill you all. And Fang he couldn't be more pumped. He's like, absolutely, let's do this. Let's fight. And he goes to try to like run forward, but Nico grabs him and is like, hey, we cannot mess up right now. We cannot waste any more moves. We're in a really dangerous situation, and we're all going to die unless we win. And Fang is looking at him, and this is what I was referring to before. He intuits the situation, I guess, because of his soul touch to Chico. Like, he, I don't know, also gets mental clarity of the situation exactly. Mm-hmm. But he immediately is like, that sacrifice her and become unforgettable. Like, that way only one person would be sacrificed.
That's the most efficient way of winning.
Yeah. And anyone who won't sacrifice somebody in the pursuit of getting stronger, they shouldn't be here to lecture me or anything like that. He starts to like head off. He's like, I have a plan. Just stay out of my way and watch. And language is like, yes, you picked the wrong ally. He is going to betray you. And Ego gets right in his face and starts yelling at him. He's like, hey, maybe I would have done that if I was the same dickhead from 40 years ago or whatever. But I have changed. I used to be a nerdy, stubborn, all logic kind of guy. But now, because I've spent so much time around others, I know what it's like to do things to help other people. And I know you've done it as well. Like, you know what the limits are of doing things alone, and that your strength surges up when you do it for the sake of somebody else. Fang doesn't say anything to that. He's just quiet, says move. And, Nico's trying to, like, continue this argument or whatever. But in that moment, yes, and also worth noting that it does appear that Fang has, like, those soul eyes going on. There's a little effect there, and Nico also seems to have it for a brief moment. Fang just says, move. Nico's trying to continue to argue it. And Fang just says, Nico, what is the ending of your next word? And Nico smiles because he's like, okay, he already knows what it is. He gives him what the information is. Nico picks the word absolute zero. So, boom, he has frozen everything. And then Fang, I don't know if this is specific to anything. It might just be a random, like, martial arts move thing. Essentially, he used the Eastern Wind's ballistic kick. And he kicks, has a very powerful attack that he can now use because both of his opponents are frozen solid. So they are physically able to be touched in some way without burning himself to death. And Nico's like, wait, holy shit, you had a move like that? And Nico ends the chapter by saying, my techniques will remain in this world forever engraved in word form.
Yeah. This is a cool chapter. I love that we get this complication, as you pointed out, now that they've got to deal with Fang's personality. I love how it clashes with Nico in this. Two characters we don't get to see one-on-one interact a whole lot. And then they come out of it cooperating in their own weird way. I also like that Fang, in his own way, basically went, "You like her, don't you?"
Yeah.
But all this stuff going on is because they're pushing each other in this way in order to get through this situation. It feels like a really big deal, and it should, because they're dealing with one of the master rules in this moment, but also in a way that involves big character development, just like the stuff with Beast did, but in its own way. So very cool stuff.
Yep.
In this chapter.
I think this is a very good chapter. Fun stuff.
Yeah. All right, Blue Box. Chapter 145, She Really Is Tough. So Hina and Taiki are studying English, it sounds like, and along with Kyo, and he's quizzing them, and they're like, and eventually he's just thinking to himself, when they're stumped by having to translate the expression "needless to say," he just thinks to himself, "Oh, they're screwed." We get a cool cover page from this point of the three of them hanging out, basically making fun of Kyo for wearing glasses. It seems like. Then there's people like they're walking around still studying, complaining about having to take tests before summer break and stuff. And Kyo points out, like, hey, look, guys, if you fail your tests before summer break, then you're going to have to do summer school. It's going to eat into your practice time. And they're like, okay, I can't afford to do that. Fine. They come across Haruyu and Nishida. So Haruyu starts to reiterate Kyo's point of like, yeah, are you just doing okay? Because they're gonna eat into your time. I know. And Taiki says, "Are you guys studying too?" And he looks and sees that they're trying to get into university, particularly Genji University, which is quite hard to get into. And Nishida's like, yeah, Haruyu doesn't only have badminton skills; he's smart too. He always gets the top score. He's both literary and military prowess. And my grades aren't that good, so he's helping me. And Haruyu, just makes a comment of like, hey, compared to there are people who are focused on studying for entrance exams, I don't have anywhere near enough time really to compete with that. And Taiki thinks to himself, I kind of just sort of always had this feeling that our time would last forever. And I felt this during the tournament too, but the third years are really close to graduating. And he kind of spies in another section of the library Junatsu is sitting with some of her classmates. Of course, yeah, he realizes like, oh, she's going to have to leave sooner than I am. Hina goes to take a study break, walks off from the others, and as she heads off, she happens to come across Haruto. And she's like, oh, he's studying too. And looks and sees, oh no, he's actually studying footage of the badminton match instead of studying for school. But he knows her kind of stooping and is like, oh, it's you on the rhythmic gymnastics team. And she kind of teases him, saying like, hey, shouldn't you be studying? You seem to have a lot of free time, huh? And he's like, this takes precedence. Because he's like that. But after a second, as she's like at the vending machine, he Kazura says like, yeah, you've been doing rhythmic gymnastics since you were a first year, and you've always been a star athlete. And he is like, oh, not only since I was a first year, I've been excelling since way before that. Very humble is Arhina. But Haruto says, well, what does it take to be like that? Because during my last tournament, well, it didn't end well. And I wanted to come back victorious, and I wanted to beat that annoying guy who's ahead of me. Instead, I was crushed. And after my match with him, you know what he said to me? He said, I'm surprised you've gotten stronger. Even though he's the one who won, he's going to nationals. And Hina sits down with Haruto and is like, yeah, that would piss me off. So, and he is, kind of like immediately he's like putting herself in Haruto's shoes and says like, oh, what's this I'm surprised mean? Like, was he expecting you to suck? If someone told me they didn't acknowledge me like that, I grab them and get in their face and make sure that I was the only one that they could see. But the truth is, 1 year could be a huge gap. Like, I started earlier than other people did, and it gave me an advantage. The fact that I've been doing this for a while is a big factor. You may have had a year of growth, but your opponent has had a year of practice. Saw that? That was interesting. And he says, between the ages of like 15 and 18, that's when you put on the most muscle. So, everyone's growing at this time. And Hard's like, well, it sounds like you're saying I should give up. And he is like, I'm not done. Fuck you. Fucking...
Dickhead.
She says, what I want to say is people who recognize this significant difference between us but think, I'm going to do this anyway, they threaten the position of people like me. Any goal will do. Whether it's becoming a player who's been dominating since his first year of high school, or beating that annoying guy who's one step ahead of you, or even something as simple as wanting to get stronger. She gives him a little drink. She gives him a cider from the vending machine, and she's like, "I think you have a good example to follow. If you fall down 7 times, get up 8. Never.
I think it's very funny.
Yes.
She's really struggling for a second motivational quote.
Don't wait until tax day to file your return. No, that's not it.
You know what the shoe thing is? Just something it. You know the thing.
Yeah.
You know it. It's so silly. No one even has to say it.
Let's did at this. Yeah, that's it. Also, she specifically makes a point that like Haruto has a good example to follow in Taiki. She doesn't say that explicitly, but it's that's what she's talking about. But after getting past the cliche, she's like, have a strong will and don't get discouraged no matter how hard it gets. Good luck first year. You've got a long future ahead of you. And then she goes to head back to studying while Haruto thinks to himself, she really is tough.
Yeah.
And then Hina gets back to her group and they're like, took you a long time to get back. Were you goofing off? She's like, I taught someone a valuable lesson.
All right, Nick, you got to weigh in now. How do you feel about the, I don't know why my lights are going off.
Right, yeah.
I'll figure it out in a second. Yeah. How do you feel about this ship?
I mean, the way I feel about it is it's happening. Like, clearly, like it's happening. Like, so I don't have any particular feelings about their interactions just yet.
Okay.
Mostly because I feel like we don't really have enough of a feeling of how Haruto like relates to people in general yet, because he's always just so focused on badminton and beating his brother. Yeah. So it's kind of hard to tell how he relates to other people. The only thing we know in terms of how he feels towards Hina is she's tough and she looks good in a unitard. So that's it.
Yeah, I think there is something. I mean, it feels like this is where they're pushing it towards in some way. I don't know if it's like fully developed, but I feel like there's something they're trying to work towards here. And it's hard not to feel like there is this running theme of first year boy meets second year girl, and she maybe becomes enamored by his hard work. and then they maybe become a thing. I think it would be very funny if this just becomes a trend.
Mm-hmm. Thank God Kyo and Ayame are in the same year.
Yes.
Meanwhile, back at Taiki's house, Taiki's mother, like, puts the two of them, he and Chinatsu, in a room together to make sure that they convince each other to study more. Because she says, like, you slack off when you're on your own, so make sure you actually study. So, okay. Anyway, the two of them are studying together. Chinatsu is, like, reading Taiki's notes upside down. Is like, you spelled that wrong. So, apparently she's very good at this kind of thing. He's still kind of in his head about, the third years of graduating soon, and so he asks her, like, "Oh, you're getting into college through a recommendation, right?" And she says, "Yeah, I've got an interview in the fall. I'm going to." Taiki thinks, like, I know that she can stay on the team until the Winter Cup, but her place in our home won't last another year. Fall and winter will be over in a flash. Aww. But Shinatsu taps her paper, and she's like, "Hey, Taiki, look here." And she points at a symbol on her notes. It's like, and there's one that's like, fireworks festival. Let's go together. And he looks up at her and goes,
Oh, I love it. She's also kind of doing the kitty face a little bit.
She's being kind of coy right now. So he pulls out his like English notebook and flips through it to find the right place so he can point to okay. It's so cute. This is such a cute little 2-page scene of the two of them together.
They're doing it so they don't reveal their relationship to Taiki's parents. They can't talk openly about it, but they're still trying to make plans. It's very adorable.
Yeah, I love this.
Taiki
and Chinatsu are such a great couple.
Yeah. I don't know how I feel about the potential other ship that is maybe not leaving port yet, but is like trying to get out to sea.
The ship's being constructed in the bay right now.
But I'm open to it. I think they did pretty good work making me like everybody in this series so far. So, and ultimately, if it means Hina gets more screen time, I'm for it. She has been like barely utilized in the past year, so I am hoping we get some more from her.
Okay, let's move on over to Kaiju number 8, chapter 105. Kafka's just saved Mina. Hooray. And the Kaiju number 9 is not all that put off by his arm missing, of course, because he could, regenerate stuff. So a consequence of this that I hadn't thought of is that, oh, right, this whole thing is being broadcast in front of everyone because Kaiju number 9 was, I'm making an announcement to everyone.
Yes.
So Kafka is on camera now confronting him. And so there are a bunch of people who are reacting like, oh my god, another kaiju, what's going to happen? And some people are scared. And then one little girl says, it's Mr. Kaiju! And it's a girl that Kafka saved forever ago.
I was going to say, like, I know that he did save this girl. I do not know when that happened anymore.
I could not pinpoint it. But she's like, Mr. Kaiju's here to save us. And she's got a little Kaiju number 8, like, stuffed animal, like a homemade doll with button eyes. It's so cute.
This thing, because also, it's not like she repurposed something. She had to have this made specifically to look like Kaiju number 8, and it's so fucking cute.
Yeah. And so everyone's like, Mr. Kaiju, and including a little kid who was scared before, and the little girl goes over to them and says, that's right, me and mommy got attacked by a kaiju, and we got saved and he saved us with a really awesome punch, and he'll beat up number 9 too. And some people are like, I think I've seen that one kaiju on the news, right? Yeah, so then that means that's Kaiju number 8. And yep, everyone recognizes who it is. And everyone's like, oh my god, it's here. We catch up over with, Kafka and everyone, and he apologizes to Mina for being late. She is, like, non-responsive. She's seemingly catatonic. And he looks over at Bako, who is still heavily wounded, and says, thank you. Because Kafka knows to thank kitties.
Yeah, he's a good dude. He, of course, thanks the cat. This is a litmus test. If you want to decide whether or not the character you like in fiction is a good character or not, you have to see if they pass the Bako test, which is, would they thank Bako after coming in to save the day here? And if they don't thank Bako, then they're actually a bad person, and you're a bad person for liking them. So, I don't know. The Bako test is like a proven formula.
Yeah, he doesn't even just thank Bako. He gives him his scratches, too. So good on you there, Kafka. Number 9 is like, this doesn't make sense. How did he get here? So he uses his weird radar stuff to connect with all the kaiju. He's like, oh, wait a minute. There's a really, really powerful, super high level kaiju energy coming from where number 8 was. Oh, is that the number 6 weapon? I wasn't supposed to be a compatible user for that. Meanwhile, Hoshina is communicating with Kafka over the radio. Says, hey, you heard what Captain Narumi said, right? You've got to have until our current reinforcements run out of steam, because if they fail, the whole force is coming down. You've got to neutralize number 9 before that happens. And Kafka gathers himself and he says, Roger, I've made it here because of everyone's help. And everyone gets set. Like, one of the operators says, like, okay, we're getting set to provide support. We're going to designate your area as a restricted area. Kafka stretches out, gets set, and he says, I'm going to take him down. And number 9 cracks his neck. And the two of them square off while everyone watches. And they clash. Both of them bash forearms against each other in a big 2-page spread as the opening salvo. We get one of those big anime shockwave underneath the combatants things happening. And number 9 says, hey, just so you know, you making it here is nothing more than a small, amendable miscalculation. And it seems as though he is winning the power struggle to begin with, because he's not flinching and Kafka is. But Kafka thinks to himself, I knew he was strong from the very start. That's the whole reason I've been training. And he plants his foot back, hammers a punch into number 9's arm, and it makes him jerk back a little bit. And number 9 realizes, like, oh, his power has grown. This is Defense Force style combat technique, the same style perfected by Isao Shinamiya. And now number 9 doesn't look quite so confident. He just looks a little bit more than before.
It's interesting because you'd assume that this guy would know how it works. He ate Isao.
He did.
But maybe that's just not something he has managed to obtain or something like that. And I also like that Kafka, like, utilizing it here keeps, like, the kind of growing or the, like, overarching theme of, like, Isao and how different characters felt about him is, like, sort of the through line of these various fights. Kind of got forgotten for a bit, but it's, like, a cool thing to, like, bring back. I feel like Kaiju number 8 can oftentimes be, like, good. It's every so often great. Most of the times it's very good. We talked about it before. It doesn't really do anything too special. It executes it really well. And, like, I've been thinking of, like, this spectrum that exists, this line of, like, a manga's quality. And, like, I don't know what's exactly in the middle yet. But, like, if there's a line just over, like, leading into good, it's Kaiju number 8. And the inverse is that line that's into bad is, like, New Exorcist most times. Where I'm like, this is mostly competent, but Kaiju is good and New Exorcist is bad. I don't know how else to explain it than that.
I'm sure it'll look good in the anime.
Yeah.
Which is started now.
Should be good. Cool stuff.
Spy Family. Little mini chapter 96.2. Honestly, the biggest thing to talk about is how awesome that 2-page color spread is of Anya just looking at the flower petals and being like, oh.
I would almost get like a painting of that, like it hanging in a house. It's very, very nice.
This is a quick chapter. Bond is left alone in the house and just kind of like, settles down for his sleep, is all bored. But then someone comes to deliver a package, and Bond remembers his instruction of like, oh, remember, Bond, an enemy could attempt entry by posing as a delivery man. So he starts growling and stuff. And the delivery man leaves. And Bond's like, oh, good, he left. And then he remembers Yor saying, oh, dinner always tastes better after a hard day's work. So Bond goes in the kitchen to find food. Shatters glass because there's a big, clumsy poor pooch. And goes and hides in Anya's bedroom because he thinks that Yor would kill him over this.
It's so sad. He's hiding under a blankie.
Big dog under a tiny blanket. But in the corner, he sees Mr. Penguin, the agent that he massacred before when he was jealous of it.
Yeah.
And for some reason, Bond hears someone saying, "You murdered me." Turns out he's actually just mishearing some people who are talking outside, and but he's mishearing people saying like, "Maybe we should settle this war." And he protests, talking about that one cute chapter where Anya had them shake hands, paw and flipper. But oh, you think I just forgive you? So instead, Bond goes and gets him some fish.
Yeah,
lay some fish in front of the penguin, and the poor guy he thinks about how awful the kennel with all the experimental dogs was, and how miserable he was in it, and so he starts licking at the penguin stuffy, and then he just kind of stays with Mr. Penguin, just kind of sleeps under his
it's so
cute.
cute.
It's very cute. And Anya's room stank of fish for days. That's the last note.
Yeah, there weren't like wider scale consequences, no lore. This is just a cute chapter, but it's very cute. Bond the dog, 100% most precious animal. I don't know if there's a room to do a top 10 dogs in manga, but I feel like Bond is close to the top.
Be up there. Yeah.
So, great dog.
All right, who's the best animal in Eden Zero, Quinn?
Eggbot, when their breed exploded.
I guess that kind of counts.
Yeah. So let's talk about Eden Zero. This is chapter 284, Xenoflare. We get a map, like Oda.
Why? Why?
We get a map, like Oda sometimes does when things are complicated, but everything's just taking place in ambiguous space. So there's no connection to one another.
Notes on each of the two words you used to describe that. 1, ambiguous, yes. 2, space! A 3-dimensional giant battle zone. You don't need to know where everything is in relation to each other. They're in 3 separate points in space. That's all that matters.
I don't know why. It's very funny to me how unnecessary it is. Anyway, Shiki got inside of the chronophage, and there's a mysterious woman inside of it, and he's like, who is she? Is she the heart of chronophage? And she, like, crinkles her arm forward and sends out all this wind that blows Shiki away. And suddenly, he's inside this ruined city that has, like, big stone pillars smashed into everything. And there are bee cubes floating in the air, Nick. That's interesting.
The internet was a mistake.
Yeah. Tashiki's like, whoa, what's all this?
I wonder what this could mean, the true identity of chronophages. I wonder who it could be.
Could be anybody. Shiki has to bounce around for being hit by a bunch of pillars, and he's like, who are you? And this woman kicks him, and we can see on her leg is a tattoo, or the ether gear symbol. Looks a lot like Cat Leaper, not gonna lie. Doesn't look, I don't know if it's exactly like it. I didn't memorize this shit. What, I'm supposed to memorize these random ass squiggles? It's on the same position and looks like Cat Leaper. So I'm assuming this is meant to be connected to Cat Leaper. Shiki's like, I'm Shiki. And this mysterious figure is like, She-ki? No, I've had my time stolen.
Oh my god, it's the exact same symbol.
Okay, there you go.
Oh, no, it's not the exact same symbol. It's got some stuff added onto it. But
okay. It is worth noting that Cat Leaper is apparently a hereditary power. So maybe it's not immediately just Rebecca from another timeline, but this is Rebecca from another timeline, right? Like, we all kind of get that.
She's complaining about her time being stolen, so yeah.
Yeah. So she's like, yeah, my time's been stolen. And Shiki's like, oh, you just eating plants to get your time back? And she's like, he's like, I don't know what happened to you, but you're causing a lot of problems, so I'm going to make sure you behave. But first, I need your help. You have to eat Mother. Back to the space or that's not even space. They're on a planet just shooting missiles at each other, and both of their cannons are getting ready to reach optimum power, and Void is smiling, and oh god, what the Ziggy. I don't remember all these stupid Shikis. The old Shiki. No, Ziggy is like, yeah.
Look, Quinn, it's very simple. Two different Ziggies are fighting right. Two different Shikis are fighting right now. Shiki is fighting a different Rebecca. Rebecca is fighting a ship commanded by one of the alternate Shikis.
When you say it like that, it makes perfect sense. He's like, look, even if you destroy Mother, it's not gonna like make a world only inhabited by machines. And he's like, who cares? All the humans will die. And Ziggy's like, you and I were both human once. And I think Void tries to deliver a hard line. He's like, that too will fade into nothing. And you're like, sure, whatever, dog. There's no sauce to this discussion because neither of these characters are interesting. Void is like, or not Void, Ziggy is like, we coexist, and Void is like, no, only a world for machines. And he's like, why do you hate humans so much? He's like, I don't hate humans, I just deem them unnecessary. This is boring. I don't even want to recap it.
Look, the point is he's a last-second villain, so all of his actual characterization has to be delivered very stiffly in out-of-place dialogue. Yeah. That's what's going on here.
Yes. So he's like, all right, fine. Ziggy makes a bunch of like blade arrow things. And I think this is so fucking funny.
It is
Void,
so funny.
who is supposed to be this super strong, super badass character, just like, huh? What are those? And you're like, I don't know, dog. Knives in space? Like, this doesn't feel like...
Wait. Oh, Dad, Dad, you're just supposed to be with gravity powers. What are you doing?
Like, he's completely fucking like, wait, what are those? We didn't say anything about weapons, Dad. Daddy, no, Daddy, please.
Just takes out, like, a pocket knife. Like, what is that?
Ziggy is controlling these with gravity, and he does a dance, and Void is like, ha, I can dodge these puny little gadgets. He's had like a real up and down in these 2 pages. He's like, oh, what are those? Actually, I'll never be defeated by them. And then you turn the page, and he's like, my legs! Ziggy just sliced off the part of his legs that have cat leaper, and that's where we get the chapter. It's like, yeah, dude, your power sucks.
It's like, instead of Ziggy explaining like cat leaper storing your legs, you should have just said like, I'm a good guy. Severed the legs of his enemy. Unreal. I love it. It's so bad, but I love it. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Let's move on. We got a new series to talk about. It's called Astro Royale. This is by Ken Wakui, who is like an established name, like outside of Shonen Jump, with Tokyo Revengers.
Yes.
Which is a series that I have not read any of yet.
I have not read. I've heard very good things about it. It was one of the more popular selling manga not too long ago. Like, it was huge.
Mm-hmm. So it does seem quite like big news for this, and we'll see how this goes. Things begin with like this indication that like meteoroids are coming towards Earth. Not just like meteoroids, but like weird rainbowy looking meteoroids as well. Uh-huh. So there's rumors that are going around that like if you make a wish on them like a shooting star while you're holding on to an important object, your wish will come true. And then something very different happens after that, as we're introduced to our main character, Hibaru Yotsurugi, who is the only son of the Yotsurugi family's boss. His father was a Yakuza boss. And like we get introduced to him like where he like goes to an old man to quote unquote shake him down for protection money, but actually it's to buy like a little bit of merch from him. But he just acts like he's a gangster while doing so. Then he runs into his adoptive brother Terasu, who is like, "Why are you pretending to be a hoodlum and stuff like that?" And he's like, "Oh, come on, this is awesome, yeah." And he says, "I want everyone in the family to remember how Dad used to be," which seems to be an indication of why he's behaving this way. So the two of them go together. They run into like another adopted son who are like, "Oh, come on, you're still pretending to be a gangster with a heart of gold. Even after all this, you're just a brat who's riding on your dad's coattails." They almost get into a fight, but Tarasu breaks it up and says, "Anyone sitting around laughing like that on the day of Dad's funeral is just a pathetic nobody." So okay, another one to put in the count. Shonen dead dads, everybody. Let's get to... Yeah! Another one happens.
Ding! You gotta point to it like it's the WrestleMania sign.
Absolutely.
The counter that goes up.
So a whole bunch of people are gathered there to pay respects to Hibaru's father, including the underboss of the family, Shio, who is another adopted son. And as people are, talking about stuff, they're talking about like potential successors, including Shio, including Hibaru, who of course is the only legitimate, like biological son in the family. But Hibaru he addresses everyone who is attending there, and he says, "Yeah, I want to thank you all for attending this funeral. I appreciate everything you did for my father while he was alive." But I also have some news to share because he also told me who he wants to be his successor. His last words were appointing successor, and that is Terasu Yotsurugi, his brother by adoption, who is surprised by this, and the entire audience is very clearly pissed off by this announcement.
To specify, the 12th adopted son.
Yes, there are many.
Most of the kids are adopted, but he is far down in what you would assume the succession would be.
Mm-hmm. So a lot of them are raising, like, God, no, Shio's the rightful heir. No, this is ridiculous. This is a sham. But Hibaru ignores them all, and he goes up to Terasu, and he's like, "Hey, you got yours?" And Terasu's like, "Oh, yeah." And he pulls out this medallion, this like round medallion that's got like a kind of cross pattern in it. And Hibaru's got a medallion that looks like a bullet. And he says, "To become one, we're the ones who are going to shape the future." And then we get a flashback to when Hibaru was a kid. And I do love the visual of this. He would ride around on his dad's shoulders while he went around beating up hoodlums. He would go around and say like, "My fist is a bullet," while he would punch people. And he was this very fearsome guy called the Asakusa Bullet that was also like respected by the people that he protected. And he would always talk about like, "Oh, my forearm's packed with gunpowder, so when I throw a punch, it explodes." And Hibaru really admired him. And he says, "The most important thing when you're a Yakuza, yeah, you gotta have serious muscle, but the most important thing is to have a chivalrous heart, help the weak, and stand up against the strong." Right? Like a Dragon has taught me the same thing. That's the most important thing. Yeah. Being a Yakuza.
And absolutely nothing else.
Nothing else. And it just turns out that he had a real soft spot for orphans, and he adopted a lot of kids, including, of course, Terasu, and they ended up joining in with his work and became the foundation of the gang, who had a bond stronger than blood, the Diamond Bond. But over time, like they started to, become more of a corporation, more of a business, who were being like, "Hey, in order for our family to survive, we've got to use all of our allies and expand our power and our territory." And then, of course, eventually Kongo grew ill and old. And so, his children went to go and see him. And Hibaru was there along with Terasu. And Kongo told Hibaru, "I want you to be the next boss of the Yotsurugi family." So, of course, this was a lie that Hibaru told the rest of the family, that he chose Terasu. Kongo did say to Terasu, like, "I need you to be the shield who protects the family, so support Hibaru as his underboss." And then he gave them the pendants that each of them have now, the bullet and the shield, a mirror pendant representing the same bullet, a shield. And so he's like, you'll be the shield and the spear to become one. Swear on these heirlooms that you will stay together and help each other out. I entrust the future of the gang to you. So then, of course, in the present, Tarasu and Hibaru are taking a bath together. You know, they're in spring somewhere. It's like, all right, cool. You got a fancy place if you got one of those.
Yeah.
But Tarasu says, why'd you lie? Because, you were chosen to be the boss. But Hibaru says, look, if I'm going to be a Yakuza, I want to have conviction. I want to help the weak. I want to stand up against the strong. That's what I believe. And that's why I want to become a Yakuza. And Tarazu's like, yeah, but we're not Yakuza anymore. We've gone legit. We're a business now. And Hibaru says, I'm not going to try and do anything illegal. But when we went straight, we threw away our beliefs. That's right. Criminals are the real heroes, everyone. It's just a little bit weird to talk about the nobility of criminals and the downside of, legitimate business. But then again, knowing what I've known since in the last, half a decade or so, maybe he's got a point.
I was gonna say,
anyway,
there is a weird thing that makes you say, like, you know what, maybe something that isn't the institution will be better, even though I know there are quite a many like glaring issues with both sides of this, but I don't know, anything, I guess.
Yeah. And Hibaru says, like, look, I know that I'm like an old-fashioned guy because I want to do things the way my dad did, but I'm not going to change my beliefs for anyone. If I become the boss, the gang will split up, so it can't be me. You're not a screw-up like I am, Tarasu. You can guide the gang in a good direction. I'm sure Dad would understand. So, hey, it makes sense. That's good logic and stuff for this this gang story, this Yakuza power struggle story that we're gonna get, right?
Yeah.
This
is just going to be a gangster story, Nick. Nothing else.
Yep. Meteors are outside, and they start flying across the sky. So, Hibaru and Tarasu presumably put on pants and then go outside. We don't see them put on pants before they get out of the bath.
No, they have towels on. They don't put on pants explicitly.
Oh, they are just, yeah. So, meteors are going overhead, and so Hibaru remembers the thing, like, if you hold something important to you and make a wish while watching the meteors, it'll come true. So he holds the pendant, the bullet pendant, between his hands, and he thinks to himself, I want to protect Tarasu and support the family. Please make me the strongest Yakuza ever. And then someone says, aren't those meteors a little close? And one of them impacts in the distance, sends out a massive shockwave that sends buildings flying, rubble cascading everywhere. And as a building comes towards them, Tarasu shoves Hibaru out of the way and then disappears under the building. And for a second, I was like, oh no, please don't let this be a Zippy Ziggy thing or a Zip Man thing where one of the brothers is dead and it is bonded as a spirit to the other one.
There was a real moment. I was like, oh, are we doing this where we're introduced to this character only for them to immediately die?
But as his brother disappears behind the building, Hibaru experiences some sort of bizarre vision of like falling through a void, and a light appears before him and goes, you shall be gifted the power you seek. That pendant of yours has connected you to the stars to give you the power to grant your wish. Astro. And then Hibaru wakes up and comes to and is, surrounded by all the rubble and everything. And he realizes Tarasu is under the fucking building, and he fears the worst. He has a flashback to when they were a little bit younger, and I was saying like, hey, I'm not, cut out to be the boss. Tarasu says in response, yeah, so what if you're not cut out for it? Your dreams to follow in your dad's footsteps, and I'll support you, even if all the other brothers turn against us. To become one, we're going to shape the future together. And now he's dead, and and they're not metaphorically going to become one. One of them's going to be a suit for the other one to ride around in.
Yeah. Look, it didn't work the first time, but that just means it's going to work even better the second time.
Hibaru desperately tries to move the building that's on top of his brother, and he starts hammering away on it, punching it, only succeeds in breaking his hand.
He's playing Rampage all wrong. You're supposed to,
Mm-hmm.
one, get big, and then two, destroy the buildings that are standing up. That one's already down. You don't get points for that.
No points.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to eat the people inside the buildings for points. Come on.
He's
not save them.
This is terrible. Worst Rampage manga ever. Since I watched the movie Rampage and then drew every still from it as a manga.
Hibaru remembers his father's words about, hey, the pendant is made from the strongest bull in the world, and so he, with his bleeding, broken hand, he grabs the pendant and he thinks, help me, Dad. And then he has a vision of his father coaching him in how to throw a proper punch.
Nick, I have a question. I have a tangent I need to go off on. I'm sorry.
Yes.
So Rampage the movie was based off of the video game. We know there was a big gorilla.
Yes.
I remember there's a big wolf, and I think they have a big lizard in there somewhere.
A big lizard, yes.
Does it have a post-credit scene where they tease the monsters that were available in the sequel game? Like Monster Rampage World Tour had like 3 new monsters in it.
Does the movie have a post-credit scene like that?
Yeah, I need to know. Like,
why do you think I watched it, Quinn? Noted schlock, dumb, pointless action film enjoyer.
I'm just trying to figure out. There were 3 other monsters in the franchise. Did they get teased at the end? Oh my god! I'm on the Rampage wiki. There are so many more monsters than I thought.
There's more than one video game, yes.
Oh my god. Rampage 2 Universal Tour, I think, was the one I was thinking of. I just wanted there to be at the end. They're like, we heard a ram, a rat, and a rhino also went through a similar process. He's like, well, I guess this is going to be a Universal Tour. Dun 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. So saying
also, we're Terminator now.
Yeah. You could just steal the music if you're aping it. It's fine. You're saying...
aping it. Rampage. Okay. Anyway, Hibaru gets this spectral coaching from his dad, and he's like, hey, imagine having the strongest fist in the world. The primer in my bicep fires, the gunpowder in my forearm explodes. My fist, shoot through, is a bullet! And Hibaru punches the building, and he doesn't break the wall. He launches the building away, which is way cooler. And Tarasu is totally fine. He was trapped under it, but he's seemingly totally unharmed from that. And he looks towards Hibaru, who has a weird glowing arm with odd markings all across it, all the way up into his pec, even. And of course, he's like, "What happened?" But then, Hibaru realizes, like, oh my god, how are you even alive? And he jumps in and he grabs Tarasu. How indeed, if they are the spear and shield, right? So they go up onto some of the rubble to look around at the aftermath, and Tokyo's not looking so hot. Buildings collapsing everywhere. And of course, we get narration that says, that day the world completely changed. Yeah, you think? Hibaru collapses, just kind of faints, and the narration continues saying it marked the end of peace as we know it, and it cuts around to all sorts of people all over who have these mysterious glowing marks indicating some special new ability, including, of course, some of the other adoptive sons of the Tsurugi family.
I like this premise. I think, one, the idea of having like key items is just like a cool idea. I think that's just like a crunchy, tangible thing to make a premise a bit more exciting and cool, in that same way that like spell books make a series cooler and stuff like that. Like, I just dig that. I like this world being like a weird combination of post-apocalyptic and gangster. I like the art style. I like that we tease out so much in this first chapter. Like, here are potentially a bunch of different things we'll be like seeing and going up for. So I think this is like a really cool start to all of this. I don't have any like dislike of any of the characters or anything. They're not like immediately warming me up or anything, but I'm like truly just kind of excited for everything that's going on here, and I'm excited to see like the next couple chapters of this.
it's a neat hook. Not in terms of, oh, this incident has happened to all these people have superpowers, because that has happened before, but specifically the twist of, and there is an established, basically completely unrelated conflict that was boiling before all these powers got introduced,
Yeah.
and now the conflict has been completely changed as a result of that, and still has to be dealt with while all this other stuff is going on. There's a lot of characters that they're going to come across that I'm sure they'll have pre-existing relationships with, and that's interesting to know is on the horizon. So
It,
I feel like there's a lot of potential here, and I'm interested in seeing where it goes.
yeah, it has some vibes of I don't know if the comics were ever like this, but the Static Shock TV show, which
Yes.
the gas went off and you're like, a whole shit ton of people have powers. And it, at first it's going to make sense for the people who have powers, but as this, runs along, we can start establishing that people got powers who aren't just like delinquent fighters, like we can start doing some interesting stuff with that. And I just think there's a ton of room to like play with like Monster of the Week or to build up like regular antagonists and stuff like that. Just like a cool setting thing.
Yeah, and there's more to it than that too. Like we see that there's just like regular people who are getting powers too. Like there's someone who's like seemingly like saving their family from being buried under rubble. There's an old man who stood up from a wheelchair because seemingly that was his wish.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different stuff that could happen here. But yeah, we'll see if it turns out to be good.
Yep. Looking forward to it. But Nick, in the meantime, we're going to talk about our favorite series in a recap, Green Green Greens.
Chapter 19, everything about golf, which sounds like a threat.
Yeah.
Honestly. The sun rises on Haku. It's only 5 a.m., dude. Are you okay?
When do you sleep?
When? So he goes to work. His entire body is stiff and sore from, walking around swinging a golf club. He gets to work, and Chikara is like, "Hey, how you doing? Oh, your muscles sore? Don't touch me." Oh. So he's like, maybe I'll take a break from practice today because it hurts so much. He greets everyone at work, signs and everything. Goes to the driving range, takes a practice swing. I immediately start trying to practice again, just on autopilot. Toto is also there, and he's shocked to see her because he's like, "Aren't you feeling really sore?" And she's like, "Nah, I'm used to it. I know not to overwork my body when I play." So Haku realized, like, oh, I guess that's like part of getting good is knowing how to pace yourself and not overdo it. Then. And so he's like, "Oh, maybe we can hit up the course next weekend, and we can, bring, like Hagio and the others and stuff." And Toto says, "No, there's a tournament next week. It's co-ed, so I'm pretty sure like everybody else is going to be taking part in the tournament. And it's a title match too, so you're not able to join because there's only so many players that can take part in a tournament, and you need an official score before you can apply. You've got to have a cutoff usually of around 90. So he's still a ways from even being able to qualify from getting to participate in a tournament with everyone. Of course, his reaction to this is, "But I want to go!" Especially after learning that there's no spectators, because this is, like there's an amateur tournament here, and this one is closed to the public. So he's not going to be able to attend. But Haku's like, "I just feel like, even just being on the course will make me better. I just want to immerse myself in everything related to golf." And Toto's like, "Wow, you really are motivated. You're more motivated than anyone here." And Haku's just like, "Well, yeah, because I'm the worst golfer here." Fair enough. Oga comes walking in, and she sits down, like, very, like, formally on a chair by the driving range. And she goes, "Isaki, will you come as my caddy?" And he is, of course, surprised by this. This is so sweet. But Toto's like, "Wait, you're allowed to have cabbies?" It's like, "Yeah, it's not a school tournament, so yeah."
I don't know why. I get like small Cypher Academy vibes from how Oga will just walk into a scene and just have like a very dynamic pose.
Yeah.
In a way that I'm like, I don't know why. It's a very normal thing to do, to sit in a chair, legs crossed, arms down. But the way she does it she's serving, and I don't. It's like there's too much attitude here. Okay, like she should be a Power Ranger. She's gonna be a teenager with this much attitude.
So she says, like, yeah, so you can be my caddy. And Haku's like, what does that mean? You carry my bag and you follow along without getting in my way so I can concentrate on playing. And Haku's be like, oh, yeah, I'd love to. And Oga says, we'll both benefit. See you Saturday then. It's like trying to make this seem like very businesslike and professional. Yeah, and Toto's gonna be like, she doesn't usually just straight up ask people to do stuff like that. She must hold you in really high regard. So
Yeah.
Haku has his doubts. It's like she does. She respects you, dude. Like so. But Haku like takes this seriously. Like we don't just like jump into like, oh, and then they went to the tournament. He goes to see Mizuza and is like, hey, can I borrow just like a bunch of old clubs in a bag? And he loads them into the bag and he tries to pick it up and he's like, oh, these are heavy. Because yes, it's a bunch of, iron and wood packed together. And so he's just, starts, he totes it around and he like takes it home with him. And he studies up on golf etiquette. He watches footage to see how caddies behave. And then he takes the clubs back to work with him. And Misa says, like, you don't have to bring that stuff in, like, every day. It must be heavy. And he says, no, it's fine. I'm practicing because, I want to get used to, like, carrying the weight around to be a caddy. I'm going to be Oka's caddy for this tournament because I don't want to throw off her game. I've got to keep up with her, and I'm going to do what I can to be ready. And that's not all. Being a caddy is truly a unique experience, isn't it? And getting to be Oga's, no less. If just keeping up takes all my energy and I don't learn anything, that'd be a waste. My first time out, I didn't have the mental bandwidth to ask everyone their scores, so I want to be able to create a little distance between me and the game. And then I'm going to cram as much golf into that space as I can before the tournament's over. So
good job.
Haku's got a plan.
He's figuring things out. He's like, hey, I can't participate in this, but this is still a learning experience. But I also have a role. I am Oga's caddy. I'm going to learn how to do that very well.
Yeah. And Oga, like, kind of accidentally overhears this stuff. Like, she's walking downstairs from the driving range and hears it. And then it's like, I'm just going to go back upstairs. Which is also like, oh, that's sweet. Like, she doesn't want him to see that she's overheard him talking about this stuff. And then at the end of this, after she has left, Mises is like, oh, it's going to be quite a treat because, she's very good at golf. And Haku says it might be the last chance I get to watch her up close. I'll miss her. Aww. And then we do jump ahead to the tournament, which is taking place in 2022, which, I wonder if a time skip's coming at any point. Oga is taking the course, and Haku is with her as her caddy. And immediately, like, there are some people who are like, "Hey, why has that student got a caddy? That's pretty cheeky of her, huh?" And Oga is just kind of like, kind of lets all these kind of thoughts wash over her, and then kind of like lets them kind of trickle out and goes, "I'll win." And she asks for a 3-wood, and it says, "Here's to a good day." And Haku's like, "Yeah, let's win this thing."
I love that she is just straight up the fucking Gojo I'll win meme at this point.
I'll win. So this is cool. I like this, kind of detour it seems like we're getting. It doesn't seem like we'll be here for a while, but it's a unique sort of interaction that we can have these two characters that we've come to appreciate have together as we head towards them being separated.
There are so many monsters in the Rampage universe, Nick. I really underestimated how many there were going to be. There's even one called Nick, and he's like a Satan monster.
What about in the game?
Also, I like that on this Wikia, there is like this is like a list of the characters. So it has their name, their gender, their mutation, when they debuted, an image, but also has an info block. the info block for 90% of these characters is just blank was a blank who drank some scum soda and had a violent reaction, turning him into a blank.
Yep, very little character to speak of because they just turned into a different type of monster and bash stuff.
I feel, Nick, I have a responsibility. Maybe sort of like a duty to go in and start writing lore for the Rampage universe.
Quinn, I've heard the term hyperfixation a few times in the past. I don't know if I've ever recognized it before.
I'm just feeling like there's a lot, like, which of these characters love each other? Which of these characters hate each other? Which of these characters are just, like, cool friends? Which of them, I'm going to start my school AU. Some of these characters going to class, they get shrunk down to, like, a normal size, but they're still their monster form, of course.
We're going to get like concept art of the Rampage monsters in school uniforms, and it's going to like circle around the internet 10 years from now, like that one Gotham High series that was a terrible idea.
Yeah. Squirmy is in there. That's the monster that's just a bunch of worms smashed together.
No.
And then I think they'd be very good friends with Shelby the Turtle.
I don't know how to react to this. I need to take away your quarter so you can stop putting them into this game.
You just take away my internet access is what you need to take away. I'm gonna close this tab now.
Thank you.
All right.
New Exorcist. Look
Oh,
at
never
very
mind.
important.
I want to go back to the Monster and Rampage Show wiki.
Chapter 46. Training supposed to be done alone. I guess. So, yeah. Last time, they established that they were going to go into a training area, and it was going to be Gakuro and Suo going in together. And then it was revealed there was a separate training area. But it does turn out that only these two are going into this one room.
Yes.
So, okay. There was, I guess, consequences to last chapter. Fine. Suo shows up in Gakuro's class, and she starts, like, making a motion towards him, and immediately one dude is like, "Do you need me, senpai?" And Zeno's like, "It's you, right, Yajima? And it can't be. Are you in Suo senpai?" It's like, "No, can't you tell by the serious look in his eyes?"
When did Zenzo get so fucking, like future scene and shit? Like, he's such a dork.
What is the purpose of having this character be any way in any situation? Because he's just going to be different in the next scene he's in.
Well, he's been like this for a little bit because he had something similar a couple weeks ago with Shitotsu, I feel like. I feel like there is just this thing that, like, this guy isn't in the know, but he is, like, in a way. Like, he doesn't know the details, but he gets that Gakuro is doing something serious with these girls, and, like, he's focused and, like, dedicated. But it's so strange that, like, my brain wants to read it as, like, a joke. Like, this is the gag of the character, is he's, like, super serious. When you're like, I don't know, wasn't he introduced as being like, "I'll fight you, monster," in his underwear and shit like that? I guess he's always been, like, weirdly serious, but he's also the dude who was just like, "Why? Your sister not related by blood."
Maybe he's supposed to be like that character who, like, thinks that he is in a shonen action manga, even though he's not actually in the shonen action part of the shonen action manga.
Yeah. This guy has strong Afro Samurai vibes. Or not Afro Samurai, Afro Shinigami vibes.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, so yeah, Suo and Gakuro go to see Nue, and they're like, "Yeah, the other two have already begun training, so let's get you both started." Immediately, Gakuro is in a void, and Nue's voice says, "Yeah, Kazusa's in another training ground." So they don't even train together.
No,
they're just
it's just a living part, Nick, for such an important reason.
So important.
She's like, you have to do your trainings alone, so that you can surprise each other when the next fight together, which is like,
That's not a good idea.
That's not how a team should function. You should know what your teammates should do.
Maybe Nue is dumb. Have we not considered this possibly before? Maybe Nue's just dumb. Maybe all of the plans that they have are bad because she's dumb and is bad at planning and having people cooperate.
She is extraordinarily dumb. This is a bad way of doing things. We will not have them team up together in the part that is cool and is able to enrich their characters, but they will be able to interact together for dumb bathwater jokes later on. So, you know.
Anyway, so this whole thing is so Gakuro can master the Xenoblade, and so she's like, "Are you ready?" Yes. And so she summons a bunch of flying fish, not like the actual animal, the flying fish, but fish that are like swimming through the sky. And she says, okay, this is in order to increase the precision of your slashes. So there is one black spirit among all the school that is swimming through the sky. So cut just that one down and don't attack any others. Okay, that's not all. One of them is a little dickhead who will attack you. Okay, well, fine. Xenoblade! My giant swarm of slashes will precisely attack this one fish! And he gets the black fish and the fish right next to it. He's like, I got it! Oh, I also got the one next to it. So you failed. She told you not to cut anyone except the black one. You failed.
I thought this was going to be he missed, but then they just kept moving. They're like, actually, there's a different punishment. So it's like, so he doesn't actually need to. Like, if he was just like, look, I just want to get to stage 2, he did it. Like, he passed.
He got to stage 2. So, yeah, because she's like, you have to get to stage 10. It's like, okay, but you progressed him to stage 2 when he failed. I understand, because they do establish, like, okay, anytime you attack one of the non-black fish, it will turn into one of the other attacking fish, and it will penalize you that way. It's like, okay, but that's just introducing an alt-fail condition. It's not a failure. So
this isn't, like, a super well-designed game, but it is a designed game, I guess.
Anyway, so that's the penalty, and so yeah, Gakuro's like, why am I backing down? Because you're Gakuro, and something went wrong once, so you're be like, oh no. So it's like, I need to be stronger. So we cut away from that to the Exorcist.
Here, I want to talk about this because this is supposed to be Gakuro's like hell training. Like, he's so far behind, he is going to have to go through the craziest stuff to get to the next level. And this is like a common shonen thing to be like, to reach that next level, you are behind. Other people are more experienced than you. Your opponents are much stronger. So your training is going to need to be so much more extreme to match that. And there are like great examples of it. You know, Ichigo having to like be like trapped in the bottom and be like, you had to like, you know, control your Soul Reaper powers in 3 days or whatever. Seta having to kick a rock across like North America, basically like the Southwest, one rock, and he can't possibly lose it. All these things are like, this sounds impossible. Like, this is incomprehensible. Is like what makes the training cool. This seems very possible. This seems very obtainable, and thus is kind of boring as a training method. It's just like, yeah, cut these fish and dodge attacks. I like expected when he got hit by one of the things that it would like obliterate half of his body or something like that.
No, he just goes, oh!
Yeah, he's like, ouch! Ouch! I shouldn't let that happen. And you're like, well, come on, dog. Like, let's get a little more excitement going on here. This is supposed to be the big training before level 4.
Right.
This is what I meant when I said Kaiju number 8 is like the slightly good version of the norm, and this is slightly worse. Like, this is fine. It's just not good, so it falls on the other side of the scale.
I don't know how he was only able to go up to stage 4 if he was progressing each time that this happened. Unless it's like each time that there are 2 fish. No, because she says you cleared the first stage when he failed. She says you cleared the first stage. How are you missing these fish, Gakuro? You have a sword that makes infinite slashes. Just bull rushing.
Yeah, I mean, the meta is here. Like, I don't want to break her game, but there is a defined meta for this game, which is like, if I just attack with my infinite slashes and hit all the fish, I will inevitably get the black ones in there that let me proceed to the next goal.
Also, the blackfish that come in each round originate from the point where the previous one you hit was. So just spam AoE. Just do that. Anyway, there's a bureau of people talking about the spirits. They talk about the level 4s that invaded the village, and they're like, how did we not detect them? Is there some way that they're evading our eyes? Blah, blah, blah. And one of them brings to the point, we have to consider that this is something to do with the resurrection of the Hyo. They're interfering with our duty. So I don't think we can avoid a battle. There are level 4 spirits, and you're a spirit exorcism squad. Yes, you're supposed to fight them. What? Anyway, so eventually Gakuro's day ends, and he's like, I only got to stage 4. How? But he realizes, like, oh, I'm not succeeding. He goes back into the room. Suo's drying her hair off because she has bathed before he got back, and she says the bath has healing properties. Gakuro's like, right, I'm living together with Senpai during the time I'm not training. This is where the real battle begins.
You know what would be cool? To see what the fuck Suo's training is?
Yeah, maybe.
To follow any part of that in a shonen battle manga where training arcs are usually meant to tie side and side with the character's personal development?
Quinn, we just saw Gakuro's training. Do you think that the other 3 were ever actually conceived? Like,
true.
If I dedicate brain power to that, I'll have to get away from, they have to share a room jokes. Anyway, so Gakuro's like, maybe we should divide up the living space so that we don't like get close to each other. And Suo's like, the room is already small enough as it is. I don't want to divide things up. Ah! So she says, go get washed off. You must be exhausted. So he gets in the bath. He's like, she's being really normal about everything. I wonder if it's because of all the harsh training. Oh god, I got the bathwater that Senpai used earlier!
I know it's his gimmick. I know it's what supposedly makes the series fun. Stop being so weird about things you don't need to be weird about. Like, here's the thing. Ew. It is gross to use someone else's bathwater. Like, I would have gotten in and I'd be like, like... That means like all the dirt and sweat is in this water. That's gross. Let me change it out. Instead, he's just like, I was using your bath water. It's like...
And I didn't even purchase it from you on the internet first.
Like, he's apologizing to her when she should just be like, ew, gross. Why did you do that? I sweated in that water, you fucking weirdo. Like, go take another bath. You're dirty again.
You've got all my me on you.
Yeah.
So, anyway, they eat together, get all the way through dinner after cooking it together and doing the dishes and stuff. He's like, I used the bathwater you used before. I'm sorry.
He's such a loser.
And she's like, what the hell? Why does that bother you so much? You're so funny, Kakuro. And she's like, all right, let's get in the bed. There's only one bed. And I swear, there's a TV over the bed, but not so that they can, like, watch TV. It's so that when they come into the room, Nue can make an announcement. And it's like, get in the bed. Guys, it's infused with my power. So it's exhaustion recovery. Get in the bed together. You gotta sleep in it together. Get in the bed together. You can sleep wherever you want, but get in the bed.
Yeah, there is, like, a level of, like, do whatever you want. No one's forcing you, but get in the fucking goddamn bed, Gakuro.
Gakuro, get in the bed with one of the many different women I want you to end up with.
Yeah.
So Gakuro gets in bed with Suo. He gets, like, he goes all the way over to the edge of the bed, gives her all the space, and Suo rolls over and, like, pokes him in the cheek. And she's like, you're gonna fall off the edge if you're that close to it. And he's like, no, I want you to have the space. Okay, fine. And she, like, stretches out across him. She's trying to, like, make light of the situation. She's like, I'll take the whole bed then.
She is doing yeoman's work at trying to get this fucking maniac to act even remotely normal for, like, a minute.
Yeah, just calm down, boy. So, Gakuro's like, but you've been, but Suo just says like, "Isn't this fun? Like, I've never had a sleepover with someone before." And that's like, oh,
Sure.
she's like, "Come on, dude, just be her friend."
Yeah.
Jesus. So, he goes, "Oh, okay."
Fucking loser.
So she starts like razzing him and tickling him, and he goes, "Oh!" And like defensive reflexes kick in, and he goes, bah! Like in the most unnatural way possible to go on her boob.
I don't even understand how he makes this movement. Like, I don't understand what. Like, I get where we had to end up, obviously, but I don't get what he did. Like, his hand is like upside down. Like, what did you do, my guy? Like, what happened when people tickled you before?
I think, and I'm going to put like my best foot forward on this.
Why?
I'm gonna say the idea must be that because he's being tickled, so he reaction is like kind of like jerkily trying to get her to stop, and jerks around, and then his hand, while he's like shoving away, like stop, winds up on her boob. But because of the way it goes to tickling, and then he moves his hand in the next panel, it looks like he's very deliberately moving his hand into that position.
I can't control myself.
Oh no, you're tickling me, and when I get tickled, I grab boobs. Like,
that's my other fatal flaw. I can't see women at a beach, and I also grab boobs when I get tickled.
What if you get tickled when there's like no women around? I find the nearest one.
You'd be surprised the lengths my body will go. It will not be sated. Yeah, this is so fucking dorky.
God, he freaks out. Suo has a very restrained reaction. Like, she blushes a bit and she goes, "You dummy," and that's kind of it. Like, it's not even like a "you dummy." She's like, "You dummy,"
yeah,
that kind of thing.
She's like, "I'm trying so hard to just be normal here, to just be friends, to interact, to be fucking regular, and you just can't stop." This is like that meme from the Babadook, I think it is, where she's like, "Why can't you just be normal?" And it's Gakuro being like, "Ah, boobs."
Stuff happens. New Eyes on the phone, and then someone in the Exorcist bureau is like, "Oh my god, New Eyes gonna be here." And yep, okay, end of chapter. All right, moving on.
Yep.
Oh, Quinn, it's the last chapter of Two on Ice. It is chapter 28. Let there be light. That sounds religious. That doesn't sound like the series at all. It's December 25th, 2022, because this series didn't get to have its time skip to catch up to the present. Yeah, it's there's gonna be a tournament and such between all the pair skaters. Hayuma and Kisara get a little interview ahead of time. Hayuma's very nervous, and Kisara is a fucking pro. Gives a very professional answer, and she also gives like a little up at Hayuma because he got nervous and she handled herself well. It's cute. Some people like recognize them and react when they start skating with the other pairs, and they just go out for a brief practice time for the free skate competition. And there are people who are just kind of like sharing different thoughts on like pairs skating and saying like, "Oh yeah, they're really good, but like yeah, Takayuki Sora is he's not skating right now because his pairing split up." And we see some of the aftermath of that, as in Trash Girl Yuko Akeboshi. She didn't have spectacular scores when she was actively competing, but she has all your past programs memorized perfectly. And when she's performing those, she claims it descends on her. Her god. And she gets a creepy picture.
Yeah,
it's nice.
She gets to be a little freak.
Mm-hmm.
Good for her. Girls deserve to be a little freak as a treat every so often, Nick.
So seemingly the two did get to skate together for a second. because Sora's like commenting on it afterwards, and he's like, it goes beyond a side by side. It's like you disappear as a person. It's really creepy. And of course, immediately, I could say her name. I could say Yuko. Trash Girl is like, oh, he complimented me. So Sora's like, oh, have you tried pairs moves before? Can I have your hand for a moment? And he takes her hand so that they can try doing practice moves, and she just collapses on her hands and knees, and Sora immediately like looks at her like, and so she goes, he's looking at me like I'm trash. All right, calm down, girl.
Good to see you're still doing very normal.
I do like that Sora's agent says she's even worse than you, Takayuki, because like, yeah, that's a pretty accurate assessment. Meanwhile, later on, Sora is reading the Divine Comedy by Dante. Of course he fucking is.
Yep.
We know it's his favorite book. There is a ring at the doorbell, and so he goes to the screen to like tell off, who he thinks are the reporters coming to bother him again, and instead it's his old coach, Tokoro, who says, oh, yeah, you let Kisara Saotome's pairs performance sway you. This is how pairs make everyone human. Come back to singles, Takayuki. I can't stand to watch you lose your ability to perform through your negative emotions. And Sora starts to say, like, well, pairs is what I'm going to... No, you can't. It's not possible. You broke up with your partner during your debut. Pathetic. You think someone like you could have another person as your equal if you did pairs? No, you're the gift from God. People worship you and follow you no matter what you want. Your fate is to take the burden of instinct, of original sin, and to die for others' transgressions. He's Jesus of the skating world.
Skating Jesus.
Yeah.
They said it was prophesized he would return to us.
Yes, but Easter came and went, so in order for his rise to happen, this series had to end, I guess. Sora, like, very meekly says, like, I'm already the best in the world. Can't you just let me go? And Tokoro says in response, do you think that people would let go of a god? No matter who you pair with, the flames of hate will never stop burning. Today is Christmas, remember? Think over the reason why you were cast down and born into this world. Don't think you can be saved from your fate. And Sora starts crying, and he collapses at the door and says, this is my punishment. I'm not a gift from God. I've hurt myself and others too much. The true God will never offer me salvation. The only things I have are the devil's temptations. That's why I did everything I could to drive the temptation away and make it my own free will. And I must face up to that eccentric woman who only worships the me who dances in hell, so I can open her eyes to her forbidden faith. I need to head toward the light I sought before and lead her to it with me. Yeah, that would have been an interesting story arc. It's sad. Like, this is like such an interesting idea of like having the villain come to a point where they realize they're the bad guy and then deciding they want to try and redeem themselves and bring someone on that path with them who doesn't want to go on the path. It's not going to happen. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, I mean, we won't really ever get like a full... I mean, I think there's supposed to be like an extra chapter or something for this, and like the volume release, it tends to happen a lot. But this does feel like something where you're like, I guess it's, a good time for you to use your imagination to see how this storyline concludes.
Mm-hmm. And there was a very sad moment. Like, this is the last note we leave Sora on, basically, for the series, is him alone in his apartment, curled up in like a fetal position, and he thinks about what Hayuma had asked him in the previous chapter. Didn't you, choose this path so that you could have the life you wanted? And Sora says to himself, I wish I could have told him. Yes, I did. Oh!
Yeah, it's a bummer.
Yeah. Back at the pair skating, a bunch of the pairs get brought together. They kind of like all huddle up, and one of them says like, pairs is an afterthought event. It's not treated by the media and the world as amazing, even though it's as amazing as singles is. Today, pairs will see the light of day, and so will we. We're going to show them the charm of pairs. Me and Katori with our pair moves. The Kirishima twins with their dynamism. Unikoto with their artistic performance. And Kisahayu with their side-by-side that comes from the heart. Sei cleared the way for us. Sora stirred up the winds of change. Kisahayu picked up the baton. Christmas this year is like a miracle, and it's the best day to offer the gift of pairs to all of Japan, including me, the character everyone knows and remembers.
Yeah, I did have to sit there. I was like, I thought Sai just got a different shirt, and then then they said Sai, and I was like, oh, I don't know who you are.
They break off. Hayama and Kisara go off on their own, and Hayama says, like, when he was doing this pep talk, it didn't, like, actually resonate with me. That whole thing about pairs being an afterthought and stuff, or that we're second fiddle. I haven't really thought about that, and it made me realize, you and everyone else, you've always been walking that path, and you've been protecting me from it until today. So, if pairs gets this attention, we all might need to walk a road none of us are familiar with. And after seeing what happened to Takayuki, just having attention might lead to hardship.
There is something so meta in the irony here of this series being like, what if we all become so super popular, none of us know how to approach it? We'll be such unique entities in a series being canceled because no one was interested in it. Like,
sorry, guys.
Fuck, I hate that.
It's, yeah. Basically, he says, like, look, you all have been protecting me, but I want, to walk forward, and I want to walk at the front now and lead everyone, because I want to love this sport. And Kisara smiles at this, but she also takes his hand and says, since we're a pair, even if you walk in front of everyone, I'll be right by your side. And that's so goddamn sweet. That's such a sweet little. Yeah. It's so obvious because of the entire theme of this, but it's so cute. And she also says, like, hey, when things get tough, I'll be there for you until you learn to love yourself, even if you get hurt, just like how you saved me. And that's nice. So they get ready to skate, and we get very, very poetic narration that says, the rink is carved with our tracks with proof that we were here. And the spotlight illuminates it, making it glisten so preciously it hurts. May the sparkle of youth someday reach those deep in the darkness, and those cast in shadows. May the paths that all those who have ever skated on the rink that is the stage of life turn into a warm light that shines upon all people. Which kind of gets to growing a little bit religious again by the end, because the chapter title is "Let There Be Light" at the end of all of this. But I do like some of the flashes of some characters that we see during this. The fact that we again check in on Sora, who is in the darkness. Also, Himeno, who is still really bitter and angry about
She is
stuff.
not, which, like, I get, but it's also like, girl. You have hobbies, right? Like, there are things you do besides scowl at a television all day.
So this is a nice ending to all of this. I do like how there is this optimistic note that we all end on, even though the series ending is sad. It's like, hey, things will be okay. We're someone else that's good will come along. And hey, I'm sure after seeing all of this that we will also hear from Itsumo in the future. It seems like they'll have something else coming down the line.
Yeah, I mean, excuse me. I would say that I never absolutely fell in love with Two on Ice, but I always was very intrigued by it, and I think that there were parts of it that were really, really well done. We talked before about how Sora was one of the more dynamic and interesting antagonists in Jump, and I kind of just wish some of that curious personality was in our principal cast a bit more. Mm-hmm. But by and large, I am sad it is ending. I'm always sad to see a sports series go. But I think this is one I will truly never be able to fully process if I liked it or not. There were some issues. There's a lot of gender essentialism and stuff like that that's baked into it, and just also kind of a blandness that existed a lot of the time. But
quick, tell me what the distinct qualities of each of these pairs were.
Well, we know that one with their artistic beauty, and the one they were so good at pair moves, and the
Oh
one
man. Oh man, the twins, they had dynamism.
they were so dynamic. They've always, anytime they've been on screen, I've always been saying, what a dynamic pair, what a dynamic group, what dynamic moves they've done. So yeah, the dynamism is what I would definitely say when I see them. So, great times for everybody.
Let's move on over to the Elusive Samurai, chapter 153, Stewards, 1338. That's the one we're on, right?
Sure.
Isn't it?
Yep.
Isn't it?
It is.
It is. So, the most that I have to say about this chapter is all the kids are playing with Lego bricks on the cover page, and it's cute. I like it. I don't know why Ayako is eating it, but
I'm gonna hope that these are candy Legos, like candy bricks you sometimes see, and not that she is just taken to eating plastic.
Also, I feel as though the one that Sheena has kicked is just going to hit Kojiro in the head. Because he's not paying attention to it.
I don't think he's as focused. I don't think his hand can really catch it from the angle that it's in. It would be very funny to see the next shot where he gets hit in the face. What Shino is her name or whatever. She's like, Sheena is embarrassed. Ayako is like passed out or choking for being all this plastic. And then our thieves have just never moved. They're still in
they're
the
just
top.
still we're a ninja. I could not process this chapter. There is talking and talking and planning and talking and planning, and I don't care. I know they're making battle plans and withdrawal plans, and the guy with the mustache that is not drawn on, we see the hair leaves his face in certain panels of this. That is his actual real facial hair, is the one taking the lead in a whole bunch of stuff, and he's like, you guys will go here, and you guys will go here. And he leaves, she's being like, hey, show your excellence as a steward and stuff. And she's like, yeah, okay. So I guess like it's good because she feels valued as a steward instead of being valued as like a divine being. Okay.
Sure.
But then Akie is like, oh, let's go on another rampage. Ata. And then we cut over to Takauji, who is having sake with Mora now. And Takauji is drinking something gross, basically. And then he drools into the cup and like hands it over to Mornow, and it's like, oh, you always want this. Yes, sometimes even I question what I'm doing. And he pours it into a little flask. Yeah. So the guy's like, all right, well, I'll just leave the strategy to you. By the way, I'm interested in that ghostly girl. Capture her for me. Okay. What general is she with? She's with Hojo Tokiyuki, isn't she? Yes. Okay. More now. There are some thorns I need you to remove. Bring them to me. And his like head opens up into a bunch of eyeballs. And it's like, oh right. Sorry. Takauji's been in so little of this manga recently that I kind of forget sometimes that he can do this.
He just has evil magic powers.
Yeah. Some dude that Mornow beat up before and told not to attack Akie's army decides to attack Akie's army. And he gets his ass handed to him. He gets knocked on his ass and is brought before Akie. And they're like, can I kill him? No. Can I kill him a little? No. Carve the word honorable into his PP 100 times. Okay, so they won that battle, I guess, and they're headed for a clash with Mora now. All right, end of chapter.
Yep. Nick, are you ready for the final showdown with Mora now, the iconic antagonist of the series, the Elusive Samurai?
I'm ready for a final anything with the Elusive Samurai. Like, Jesus Christ.
There we go.
Just do something else.
I don't want to, because we just had a series end, and we talked about a bit about, adding, marriage toxin in there. I wonder if there's, an angle that's like, all right, guys, when Elusive Samurai leaves, then marriage toxin comes in. But if it doesn't end soon, because I think we're, reaching a point historically where things kind of end, I want to there's going to be a point where I'm just going to be like, oops, I dropped Elusive Samurai in the garbage.
It's over here.
I can't. It's behind a door that needs a red key, and I don't have the red key. So unfortunately, we're going to have to talk about something else, marriage toxin.
Yeah. Akane-banashi, story 106, today's star. So after the confrontation with Zensho, who walked away looking very, 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 very mature and in control of the situation, Shigema and Taizen and Akane are just kind of like left in the wake of that. Akane looks, kind of like nervous about everything, but Taizen puts a hand on her shoulder, and Shigema says recommendations for Futatsume promotion are made at the discretion of the individual Arch 4 members, so wipe that fretful look off your face and hold your head high. I've got your back. Oh, isn't that nice? What a good master.
Yeah.
And then he also says, like, hey, by the way, what are you all standing here for? It's time. And we cut back to the stage where everyone gathers up together to give Asagao his promotion to Futatsume. He's wearing the new robes, marking him as such. And he's going to make a speech. But first, Chocho there's a little introduction. He's like, hey, Asa's kind of a clumsy guy in a lot of regards, and he looks like a mean-spirited punk, but he's a very compassionate, generous man. He's got a strong moral fiber in his core. And he took a long detour to reach the starting line, though he's still got much to learn. I hope you'll give him a raucous welcome to his new rank today. He's my greatest apprentice. Aw, isn't that nice?
Uh-huh.
And
we're going to get the Asako performance that we mentioned last week. We would be furious if they didn't do, because it would almost feel like the series is missing its own point by not showing us this on his night.
So Asagao is introduced as Konjakute Asagao, and is like, oh my god, he's the man of the hour! The man of the hour! That's our guy!
This is so cool. They're really building him up before even we get multiple chapters of his story, which I think is going to be very cool and very satisfying.
So Asagao takes the stage by himself, and he says, thank you all for coming to celebrate my promotion, but you guys, what are you crying for? And it's like his big, punk support section and stuff. They're all sobbing with big banners in front of them. And he's like, I'm going to be distracted to focus on the story I'm telling. What story is that, Asagao? What are you going to tell? What story is it? Oh, the audience is here. They came to see him. It's a home crowd. Of course, he's going to hit out of the park. And Kane's like, yeah. And she thinks about how Asagao was like, hey, you're not on my level on the start of day. And Akane just thinks to herself as he starts performing, aw, dang, I can't beat him. Aw, isn't that nice? But then Chocho says next to Akane, he's going to be fine up there, which means now the real event can begin. Yeah, Asagao's performance! Yeah!
The main event! Yeah. The literal main event of this show.
And then she also looks over at Taizen, who's looking very serious, and she thinks, wait, do you mean... And we cut to the after party.
This sucks.
It's bad.
This is stupid. It is disappointing. I know their goal is to make more of a ultimate statement and have fun in the celebration of this party, but for a series that is about Rakugo and has had an entire arc about this guy's promotion event, to not see his story feels like a tremendous waste of potential and build-up. You could presumably find a way to find a story that this guy could tell that wraps up the themes of this, that talks about advancement and growth, and shows why this guy is so special and cool that Akane looks up to him as a senpai, that she looks up to him as someone she aspires to be good enough to defeat or to match or whatever. She says, I can't beat him yet. And the only Rakugo thing we know he's done is he did a story where he got to be vroom, vroom, vroom. He got to do a couple motorcycle sounds. I was so excited to see what this guy does. And now after party, kind of just a bummer.
Isn't it great that Megami just won that cooking competition? Yeah. that one over there against that guy.
Yeah, I can't wait for the Rakugo tournament that comes up, and he will. Everyone will be like, "No, Asugo is really tough, but he'll lose the first round to build up an antagonist."
Look, I'm glad that it took 106 chapters before Akane-banashi did its first thing that we were really upset with. But yeah, this is disappointing, and I know that I'm sure it has to do with just the flow of the story and having important, points to wrap up and all that stuff. I get it. It's more economical to not show it if it doesn't have a direct line to some of the dramatic conflicts that were going on surrounding this event. But you don't go, this should be Asagao's event, and have Akane stress the importance of this being Asagao's promotion event, and that's why she, stops. She feels guilty about her own performance, why she's so concerned with Taizen showing because it'll affect Asagao's event, and not have it feel like Asagao's event.
Yeah,
like that feels like it's being disingenuous.
What is it? Ludonarrative dissonance is that term that gets like bandied about. This is just like a moment where like the story and what we are shown is still like different. Like I understand that Akane is the main character we are following, but like we've also had events where like other characters get to do full Rakugo performances. And if the story is being told to us that Akane realizes this isn't her event, and that's why she's not going to go over the top and do all these things to take the spotlight away from Asugo, then it'd be cool if we got to see the spotlight on Asugo, but whatever.
So it's a celebration. Everyone's drinking. I do like how we see that Akane's got a little, a little cup with a straw in it, a little bendy straw, the most innocent of possible drinks you can have at a drinking party. But then Chocha says like, "Hey, who said you could just like stand around here doing nothing?" And Akane's like, "Well, where's my master?" "Oh, yeah, he left with Master Moroku a little while ago." Yeah, so Chocha's like, "Oh, and I heard about what happened. You argued with that damn mophead. You should have just called for me." And Akane's like, "No, it wasn't arguing with him." And then they hear, "There was no need." And it's Taizen, and he's talking outside of a Rakugo performance. "For one thing, that was an issue between Master and me. You have no place in the argument. Also, how dare you call someone else's master a damn mophead? It's preposterous. If anyone gets to call him damn anything, it's me." He's just very, very chatty. It's like, oh, the exact opposite. He acts the exact opposite way when you get him tipsy. Yeah.
Fair enough. Makes sense.
It's funny joke. Asagao shows up wearing no shirt and a little banner that says "Today's Star."
I had good Rakugo performance.
Trust me, I definitely did. He's drunk too, and he's like, "I'm so happy I'm your apprentice, master." And then Chocha's like, "How dare you start bawling and weep in front of others?" "Oh, I'm so happy for you." He's crying too.
You had such a great show. They'll be talking about it for years. The legends that'll be told at this performance.
Oh, man. But it is nice that Akane takes this and is like, I kind of just like, when I was trying to just get everything set to get promoted to Fudatsume, I was just thinking of it as just a stop in between getting where I'm going. But now she realizes this helps her realize like how important just this achievement is.
Yeah, which is significant, nice. Like because she wants to do this because it's the next stop, but she has to realize there's a whole level there, as evidenced by the fact that this Rakugo who performed at this level, who just got initiated into it, she can't beat him. So of course we got to really see what the difference between their levels are.
Mm-hmm. Oh man. So celebration.
I'm just being a bitch.
It's okay. It's okay. Celebration kicks up. They all start dancing. And my God, everyone's so drunk. But as the party wears on, she kind of goes out to get a bit of air. And then someone approaches her and says, "Good job today." And it's her dad. And he says, "You got a minute to talk?" Now, Quinn, it's nice to know that even with the most disappointing chapter of Akane-banashi thus far, I still came out of it saying, "Ooh."
Yeah. Look, I will say this. This is legitimately, like, fun. Like, I like the after party, and I like the ending of being like, oh, cool, we're gonna get to see Akane and her dad have, like, a full fucking conversation. I'm super excited for that. We're being bitches, though, because we wanted something to happen, and we thought it naturally would, and it didn't, and it's disappointing. But as a whole,
we'll finish the story next year.
yeah, as it is, this is a series that has generally hit more often than it misses. So it's allowed a couple stumbles, and maybe there is like a logic to it. Maybe if we talk to the mangaka, they could be like, well, I considered it, but for this reason, I actually thought this flowed a lot better, or whatever.
All right, yeah. So that is it for Weekly Manga Recap. It's weird to feel it ending on a negative note like that, or at least a bittersweet note. Like, look, I do like some of the stuff that's going on in Akane-banashi that's coming up, but yeah, just a little bit of a downer that we didn't get to watch. Chapter, what was stuff you did like this week, though? What's your chapter of the week?
So my chapter of the week, I think, is going to be Astro Royale is the name of it.
That's the name of the new series.
Yeah,
yes.
I want to call it Astro Baby, but that's the other Astro thing that we're not talking about. I'm going to give it there. And then my MVP, it's going to be, I'm going to reserve it for Asago if he had done his performance here.
the theoretical Asagao.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to have the energy of Crocker from Fairly Odd Parents. Like, this is where I would display my fairies if I had one. Like, that sort of energy.
I'm sorry, that was Timmy's dad in the alternate timeline.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
And this is where I would put my trophy if I had one.
Yeah, that kind of energy. This is where I'd put Asago if we got to see his performance. For one that actually counts, though, I'll probably say Feng from Undead Unluck.
Mm-hmm. It feels like we actually have not as crowded a field for this as before. So I think I'm also gonna echo you and say Astro Royale. I mean, like, look, there was good Greens chapter, but that's kind of it in terms of like stuff that really stands out. Maybe Undead Unluck. But yeah, that's going to be it for me as Astro Royale as well. And for my character of the week, my MVP, I guess I think that I also have to give it to Feng. I mean, I don't like when everyone's just completely on the same page, but I guess it feels like the obvious choice. He was a very big standout part of this week, in terms of how he completely changed the tone of the fight, stood out, was very entertaining and interesting, and got me excited for the next chapter.
Yeah, absolutely. The audience, by the way, picked Kaiju number 8 as the chapter of the week, and Feng from Undead Unluck as the MVP of the week.
All right. That is going to do it, y'all, for this week of Weekly Manga Recap. We will return next week, where we will hopefully be talking about a certain very, very, very popular series. Yeah, so that's going to do it for Weekly Manga Recap. We record the show here on Wednesdays at about 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time on twitch.tv/RoloT. If you want to know exactly when the show is going live, then join our Discord server. You can click on the link wherever this gets posted, and there will be a notice that gets sent out when the stream goes live. You can also participate in conversations about the week's chapters with the community that hangs out on there. And there's all sorts of other stuff that people talk about when we're not looking in the VTuber chat and other places. I assume. I haven't checked the VTuber chat since ever. So
I just checked it now. It does seem to be VTubers, but this could all be code. Like, I have no idea. This could be like the war, what is it, War Thunder forums, where like just classified war documents are being distributed.
Really?
I'd have no idea. Yeah, that's like a long running meme that constantly classified documents are being leaked there of like military crafts. So this could be what it all is.
Okay, well, it's good to know that we are helping in the international surveillance field in our own small way. That is, if you want more Weekly Manga Recap, we have everything hosted on Podbean, weeklymangarecap.podbean.com if you want the audio version. We're also on YouTube for video versions, youtube.com/Weekly Manga Recap. You can also check us out on Patreon if you want some bonus content, patreon.com/Weekly Manga Recap. Where we do stuff once a month if you want more stuff and you want to financially support the show. We would like to thank everyone who helps make the show better than it would be without all you guys, honestly. We've got title cards occasionally made by Steve Mann, Ninja X3I, who maintains all the Google Doc stuff and helps keep track of jokes that we've made that we've forgotten about. And keeps track of Q&As that we're going to answer. If you want to add those in, it's recommendations that we will make them on the Google Doc as well. And also Milo Jack Stillitz and Winston Cheddar, who create the awesome opening sequence on the video version of the show.
Yes. Good stuff. All right, that's nothing else. Next week, Dragon Ball. Goodbye. I don't have anything else to say.
Neither do I. And that is the most interesting way you can possibly end a podcast, is with nothing.
Yeah.
The sound of silence.
Actually, the real interesting version is this podcast, like our audio starts to dip out and Werner Herzog's voice comes in. It's like, the two podcasters had no idea how to end a podcast. And as such, we have to wonder if we too are desperately searching for the tangent that'll make things seem interesting in life.
Actually, I'm pretty sure that we had a great podcast conclusion, one that nobody could possibly beat, but you just don't get to see it.
Oh, Schrodinger's tangent. I love it. Goodbye.